You are not bad at sales. You're just tired of the pressure that comes with it. The pressure to say the right thing, to not mess it up, to get them to say yes. And then that pressure is what you carry after the conversation, wondering if you did it wrong. And if you're leading a team and responsible for sales, that pressure doesn't just stay in your business. You're probably bringing it home. So today we're talking about how to shape your message for each buyer so that you can stop over explaining, stop overthinking, and stop carrying the weight of every sales conversation with you into your life. This shift will relieve the pressure in your business and at home. Welcome back to Small Business Growth Tools. I'm Lindsay Fletcher, and today we're talking about something that changes not just your sales, but how you feel at the end of your day. So I want to zoom out for just a second. I am a mom of four, and I've learned a few things over the years, and one of which is that I cannot communicate with each of my kids in the exact same way. Now, one of my kids is very direct. He's very logical, but he also has big emotions and he wants to analyze everything. And he's a super duper rule follower. Okay. Now, one of my other kids is the complete opposite. He's emotionally intelligent. He's even keeled, but he is more of a risk taker. And if I try to communicate with each of them in the exact same way, one of them is going to shut down and the other one is going to tune me out, right? So I've learned to adjust my messaging. I've learned to adjust how I deliver consequences or whatever it is, right? Not because I'm changing who I am, but because I understand who they are and how they need information delivered. So I want you to hear this. Sales is the exact same thing. And this isn't just a business principle. There's actually some examples in the Bible. Jesus didn't communicate the same way to every person. With the woman at the well, he was relational and gentle. He was direct and confrontational with the Pharisees. But then with his disciples, he explained things in detail and taught them step by step. But with the crowds, he used parables and stories that made truth easier to understand. So, same truth, different delivery. Why? Because he understood the person in front of him. And if Jesus adjusted how he communicated to reach people, we should probably do the same thing. Am I right? So, let me take you back several years ago to when I was an audiologist. I was working in the clinic with patients who had lost their hearing. And some of my favorite patients were adults who used to hear clearly and for a variety of reasons couldn't hear well anymore. They remembered conversations. They remembered going to restaurants and being able to talk to their spouse or their best friend. They remember what it felt like to hear their loved ones. They remembered talking on the phone, right? And cochlear implants could change their lives. And most of the time, they agreed. They wanted it because we've all seen the videos of the child that's hearing their loved one, their parents for the first time, or the adult who has lost their hearing, who's hearing their spouse for the first time in many years, right? But then came the hard part, and that was the rehab, the daily listening exercises and the commitment that it required. And I would explain it. I was very clear. I would use simple language and I was thorough, but some of my patients wouldn't follow through. And I remember feeling this pressure of I know these listening exercises will change how you're hearing. It will improve your life drastically. So why aren't you listening to me and doing your rehab? Now, fast forward several years when I went into the hearing technology sales of cochlear implants. I was in sales training and I learned buyer psychology and understanding how people make decisions. And I remember thinking back about those patients who I couldn't get to do those rehab exercises. I was giving good information, but I wasn't giving it in a way that matched how they needed to receive it. Now, my outcomes were good. Most of my patients did really, really well, but some of them could have been even better if I had communicated in the way that their brains were wired. And this is what I really want you to hear. If your clients aren't moving forward, it's not always your offer. It's not always your pricing. Sometimes your message just isn't landing the way that they need it to. And when you learn how to fix that, everything gets better. So I had a client that was doing basically the exact same thing that I was doing back when I was a clinical audiologist. She owns a service-based business. She's great at what she does, but she was telling every single client the exact same thing. She also leads a team, and she was communicating with each and every one of her team members the exact same way. Same explanation, same information, same approach. Some people, some clients moved forward. Some team members moved forward and bought in. Some didn't buy. Some people didn't turn into clients. And some of her team members didn't buy in. When some people move forward, but a lot don't, it feels inconsistent. And there's a pressure, an underlying pressure that comes along with being a business owner and also being the leader, right? And after going through my sales training, she texted me and said, I've already seen a difference. I'm picking up on their cues. I'm communicating better. My clients feel more at ease. And then later, she actually told me that her close rate went up. Her conversations felt easier, and the clients that used to feel hard weren't hard anymore. She had just been speaking their language. She had been delivering her pitch in a different way. So let's talk about what this feels like before you learn this, okay? Because I know that you felt it because I've felt it. You're in a conversation and your brain is racing, right? You're asking yourself, oh my gosh, am I saying this right? Did I explain that well enough? Should I add more? Did I lose them? And you leave the conversation and think, I should have said that differently. I should have added this, or I should have added that, or did I talk too much? Or, oh my gosh, I did talk too much. And then what happens? You carry it. You carry it home and you carry it around. It's this low level anxiety or this low level pressure that you bring into the rest of your life, especially if you're the business owner and responsible for sales. You're leading a team and you're responsible for revenue, right? You bring it into your next task. You bring it into your evening, into your time with your family. You're sitting at dinner and you're physically present, but you're mentally replaying the conversation that didn't go well or that didn't end the way you wanted to. That's the pressure that I'm talking about. Or if you're like me, you're waking up in the middle of the night because you have to make, or you're waking up in the middle of the night because you have to make more sales to pay this month's bills, and you replay every conversation that didn't end in a sale and wondering where it went sideways. That's the pressure I'm talking about. So let's talk about what happens when you learn how to communicate with each buyer. You walk into the conversation grounded. You're not trying to say everything. You're not delivering the exact same message over and over, which for me makes sales feel exciting because I don't love monotonous things. I don't like doing the same thing over and over and over, right? You're not trying to say everything all the time. You're not trying to offload 20 years of experience or 5 years of experience and 5 years of trainings into your sales message. You're listening, you're observing, you're asking questions, and you're responding in a way that makes sense for them in real time. And because of that, you don't rush and you don't over explain. We talked about over explaining in last week's episode. Over explaining is killing your sales. But here's what also happens. You don't panic. You're not panicking at night. You're not waking up in the middle of the night. You're able to leave your work at work. Whether you work at home, you can leave it in your office, or you work at an actual brick and mortar place, right? You are able to guide conversations in a way that makes sense for the potential client. And the real payoff is that that pressure is relieved. That is what changes in your actual life when you learn how to sell. You leave a conversation and you don't replay it. You don't second guess yourself and you don't carry it into dinner with your family. You show up to the conversations prepared. You have the conversation and then you're done. You don't present, you don't bring it home. You're more present, you're more patient, you're more focused, and your brain isn't spinning. And then in your business, you're not trying to convince people anymore. You're helping them decide. Now, sometimes they decide not to move forward with you. And sometimes you should be telling them that you're not the right fit and referring them on, right? You're helping them decide, which means shorter conversations. It also means faster decisions with some clients and stronger relationships and sales that feel natural and consistent, not forced. Oh my gosh. And you aren't using the bro sales tactics that you've learned on TikTok or YouTube, right? Friend, you don't need more scripts. You don't need to say more. You don't need to change who you are. You don't need to turn into this super high pressure bro sales driven person. You need to learn how to say the right things for the right person at the right time. You already do this in your everyday life. Now it's time to bring it into your business. So if this episode clicked for you, I want to invite you to take this a little deeper. I'm hosting a live in-person training called the Buyer Breakthrough on April 20th in the Woodlands, Texas. This is where I'm going to teach you how to understand your buyer motivation, what your buyer actually needs to hear to make a decision, and how to adjust your messaging in real time. So you can stop overthinking, you can stop over explaining, and finally remove the pressure from your sales conversations. As of this recording, there are only 13 seats left. So if you want to be in the room, you need to grab your spot now. And if this episode helped you, make sure to follow or subscribe so that you don't miss what's coming next. I'm cheering for you and I'm praying for you in your business, and I'll talk to you next week.